Welcome to another Super Deluxe Edition unboxing video. It's the start of 2023, so Happy New Year to everyone. And what I thought we'd do is a bit of housekeeping and catch up on a few unboxing videos, a few releases that we didn't actually do at the end of last year, and the most prominent of which is probably Revolver, the Beatles 1966 album, which was reissued in November. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at the new CD box set, which is what I'm holding in my hands, but we're also going to reflect back on how this sits up against the previous Beatles box sets like Sgt. Pepper, Abbey Road, The White Album and Let It Be. And then also use this opportunity to have a look at some previous versions of Revolver as well, just to compare and contrast. So starting with this box set, where you can see it's a 12-inch by 12-inch package. There is no vinyl, 5 CDs, no Blu-ray, which is a point of contention, of course. And then inside, we've got a sort of fairly familiar book, which has been presented with all the Beatles box sets. We'll take a look at that. And then what looks like a vinyl record, but in actual fact turns out to be the folio that holds the CDs. So we'll have a look at that in a second. What's interesting though is to compare and contrast the previous set. So this is the Sgt. Pepper box set, which was a pretty spectacular release. Came in this outer slipcase, and then it came in this box which sort of opened up and all the content sat inside the box. Now they haven't repeated this since they did it, because what happened after Sgt. Pepper was they moved on to the White Album. So this is the White Album Super Deluxe, and as you can see this was done in a kind of book format. So completely different. The outer sort of transparent sleeve, which always slides off when you pick it up. And then this was just like CDs in a book. I mean, it was really fantastic, this release. But, you know, different to Sgt. Pepper. And then with Abbey Road, they did something different again. So it was a kind of book in an outer slipcase. This was 3 CDs and a Blu-ray. So discs in the book, and then there was the book. And then a couple of years later, when they finally got around to releasing Let It Be, we got something different again. So it's a bit more in keeping with the White Album, but it's actually a slightly different size. You know, you've got a die-cut rectangular. This is obviously the Japanese version. But yeah, so once I've taken off the slipcase, you can see this was a book. And a folio which contains the various discs. That contrasts quite sharply with, say, Paul McCartney. He's made a very deliberate attempt to keep his book style box sets the same dimensions. It does maintain the back to front thing. So you've got the cover here and then the back of Revolver on what feels like the front. There's Revolver on the spine. So let's take a close look at this then. One nice touch straight away is that where it normally says Revolver at the bottom, that's done in spot varnishing. It's not that easy to see, but if I, there you go. If I shine that directly into the light, you can see that Revolver, it is there, but it's just done very subtly in spot varnishing, as is the Parlophone logo, although that's harder to see. So that's a nice touch, a kind of textless front cover. The back uses a familiar photograph, and here we see the contents all laid out. So the key thing is it's a new stereo mix by Giles Martin and Sam O'Cal. We get 2 discs of sessions. The original mono master, which was included in the mono CD box set back in 2009, and then this 4-track EP, which has been criticised a little bit for not having very much content on it. It's a CD with 4 tracks, but the cover looks good. On the insert, you can see the difference there. They revert to the original design with Revolver written there. And again, on the back, it's more like the back of the original album, as compared to the back of the box, which shows you the whole content. So what do we get here then? So we get the 4 or 5 discs actually, inserted. Fairly much standard these days for box sets. So there's the disc with the classic yellow Parlophone logo. And then that's the album, the new remix of the album. The original mono master more or less repeats the design. Unlike in the mono box set, there's no attempt to recreate the original mono sleeve with the flaps on the outer rear. So I just happen to have the mono CD from the mono box set to hand, and you can see, for a start, it's bigger because that's the sort of traditional Japanese size for a vinyl replica CD. This is much more authentic to the original than that one in terms of the colour. You can see it's a little bit creamier. It's not bright white, it's a more sort of softer white. The difference with this one is you've got the proper flaps folded over. It really is a proper recreation of the original mono. You know, the card isn't the same kind of quality as this. You got, for example, this is laminated on the front and it's not laminated on the back. That's exactly how it was in the original. There's no attempt to recreate that as part of this CD box set. Also, on the Japanese manufactured mono box, you get all the details basically. You get the inner sleeve, you get the rice paper protection. So there's no doubt about it. You know, lovely though this new Revolver box is, it doesn't come close to the level of packaging when you get down to individual discs as the 2009 mono box, which was entirely made in Japan. I mean, this is my original mono copy. This used to belong to my dad. It's passed down to me now, but this is an original 66 mono, and you can see what they were trying to recreate there with the mono from 2009 in the box set. It's pretty accurate. I mean, this is obviously has faded, so that colour is probably darker than it once was, but it's a bit more in line with that if you compare the there's the white of the modern one. So anyway, the mono repeats the album cover. And then the two session discs use these sort of psychedelic-y kind of photos. And then appropriate enough, the rear photos are kind of alternate outtakes from that particular session. I think when it comes to, see that's damaged a little bit. There's the disc design incidentally, so that's pretty cool. They've created it as a kind of not for sale promo kind of design, which is a nice touch. The same goes with the other one. But yeah, I think the content's pretty solid. I mean, there's been some complaints they haven't been generous enough, but you're talking about two individuals and two estates that the label and Apple are having to deal with in terms of approvals and getting everything sorted out. I mean, there's some great stuff on here. The first take of Tomorrow Never Knows. Multiple versions have got to get you into my life, including the first and the second versions. Love You Too, there's a couple of 3 versions of that. Multiple versions of And Your Bird Can Sing, and Rain, with actually done at the original speed, which I find really interesting. Lots of I'm Only Sleeping, Eleanor Rigby, the demo of Yellow Submarine, which got a lot of attention. She Said, Here, There and Everywhere. So I think it's decent. It's pretty... I mean, it's such a spectacular album that anything's going to sound amazing. And then finally, there's this 4-track EP packaged up here as a little sort of 7-inch single. I mean, maybe they could have die cut this and made it a little bit more flashy, but basically it's the non-album single from around the time of Revolver, which was Paperback Writer and Rain. And you get the new remixed versions of both of those, and you get the original mono. That's what that is. Of course, the big talking point is, for the first time in a Beatles Super Deluxe edition, there's no Blu-ray audio with an Atmos mix, with a high-res stereo mix, with maybe other bits of content as well. It appears that it was more of a scheduling issue than any kind of scheming or diktat from Apple Music or whatever the theories are. Pretty unfortunate situation, and I think we have to hope that Apple and Universal Music might come to some kind of arrangement to release that physically at some point, somehow. Now, the book. These are always sort of a real highlight because the design, the editorial are always first class for these Beatles books. Kevin Howlett is the main man these days when it comes to research, track by track, analysis, putting it all into perspective. He's the sort of go-to person in in terms of Apple and Universal. Questlove talks about the album, which raised a few eyebrows, but I don't mind that. It's kind of a different perspective. There's an intro forward from Paul McCartney, an intro from Giles Martin. There's Questlove talking about what the record means to him. But yeah, this is all first class stuff. I mean, it's impossible to not enjoy this, and it's proper examination, lots of text. It's not just loads of photos. There's a track by track appreciation of the album. The Beatles look pretty cool at this time, didn't they? There's John with his glasses. I'm going to put this down now. You can see here a lot of detail, a lot of information about each track. Pictures of tape boxes. Talk about the non-album single, Paperback Writer and Rain. Then a bit about the cover. Klaus Voormann, of course, who ended up playing bass on the Plastic Ono Band album. So yeah, great book. The book comes with the vinyl edition, which is a positive if you are only interested in the vinyl. My friend Andrew Dixon, who's got a great YouTube channel, he made a good point. And he said the only problem with putting the book in both sets is if you want to buy both sets, it's slightly redundant. You have to buy two books effectively. Could there have been a super duper set which brings together a third set, which brings together CDs, vinyl, and then just gives you the one book? It's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. So for a bit of fun, here's a reminder of what EMI used to do in the old days. I think this cassette came out around the time of the CD reissue, the first CD reissue. But it's the classic kind of XDR parlophone. At least with this cassette, the running order is the right way. In the 70s, they started the album with Good Day Sunshine on the 70s cassette. They had to rejig it to sort of balance out the tape length, which just shows you the level of respect or lack of when it came to the Beatles' art. So the two items go back into the slipcase. This is the folio with the CDs in it. This is the book. They slide nicely back into the box. So interesting, the box has got the border on it. I think that's basically because if you didn't have the border, it's very hard to get it precisely at the edge, because the way these are constructed, sometimes you need some bleed. You need to overlap it and you end up losing a bit of the cover. So I think that's what that's about. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with regards to the Blu-ray. Of course, we're wondering what's going to come out this year. We think it might be Rubber Soul, but we'll have to wait and see. I hope you've enjoyed this unboxing video. If you have, why not subscribe to the SDE YouTube channel for more great physical music unboxed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.